I was gonna speak a little bit. Bailey's got something to say.
All right, ladies, we are live, and
This is gonna play a song.
the microphone is picking us up a little bit. I think I'll just basically, here we are having tea and nice, like some nice biscuits. Are you ready to?
Oh, you want me to do it now?
Yep.
Alright.
So
Did you make the biscuits or?
Emily made the biscuits. Yeah. Got it.
How long am I supposed to stand there?
When she starts in here.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
Hey, Madison. Welcome to Turf Tea Time, episode 1, Madtown Turfs Drink Tea and Talk Politics. Yep, our speaker's corner today is being held in the lovely downtown Madison WLRN studios. I've got my bodyguard here behind me because obviously letting women speak in our society these days is risky business. And so here we are, taking the town square, taking the airwaves on the internet, being the media, and we are drinking tea today and talking politics. I've got my lovely, if you call any woman a turf, you are a misogynist t-shirt on, designed by Meadra Johnson a few years ago that we have available on our merch page on the WLRN website, soon to be revised and revamped merch page. Let us know if there's any other merch you'd like us to feature. I just want to thank my bodyguard over here in the background. And I'm going to hand it over to Emily, who is my co-host in Studio B with all of the lovely ladies. Take it away, Emily.
Okay. Here we are in Studio B, and we're gonna have some awesome women speakers. And first up, we've got Margaret.
I personally like for people to feel free to naturally be how they are. I'm not happy with a sexist, consumerist society that encourages women, especially, to get boob jobs and facelifts and all that. I would like women to feel like they can just be how we are without all the fuss. Trans advocates promote hormones and surgeries of all sorts, as if our bodies are the latest canvases to experiment with, and expect society to go along with it all, and then shame and exclude from society those who do not. Teenage girls are having their breasts cut off because that is the latest trend, the way to be accepted by the cool kids. The ideal situation would be for girls to feel comfortable with their bodies as they change and grow. There are all sorts of pressures on girls to meet consumer standards of perfection. Boys have their own pressures to meet other standards, to be accepted as being tough enough, mostly, to not be feminine, especially. I recognize that society has placed narrow boundaries on men and women both, but the answer is not to change one's biological sex, because that is impossible. A reasonable answer is for those men who want to be more colorful or whatever to be so, and for that to be normalized, and for society to recognize women's accomplishments as we do men's, so women do not have to present themselves as men to be recognized. I see the problem as being a fight against rigid gender roles, but the trans advocates are encouraging people to take unnecessary and ridiculous gender roles even more seriously. Young children are being taught girls like long hair and dresses and boys don't. Boys like certain types of games or activities and girls don't. With that reasoning, my mother, who liked to play with snakes and follow along with the boys, would have been considered herself a boy, an actual boy. She thought boys had more fun. A girl like that today may be encouraged to take puberty blockers as part of the affirmation process, followed by her breast being removed so she wouldn't look like a girl. She would then take hormones for the rest of her life, resulting in osteoporosis and various unnecessary health problems at a young age. In addition, people are more likely to enjoy sex with a fully functional body they were born with than with one that has been mutilated with lost nerves and sexual responsibilities. Some surgeries are going to be better than others, but there can be all sorts of long-lasting complications from top and bottom surgeries. And then after all that, some figure out that being trans is not so great and they have to live with at least some of the consequences. People are often not told of all the possible problems. Sweden and other countries have figured out by looking at the data that young people getting surgeries and taking hormones has no reasonable justification. The claims by advocates and lobbyists that this must be done to reduce suicide are highly exaggerated and misleading. There are many ways that women can be harmed individually and as a group by losing our sex-based rights. There is nothing to stop anyone from self-IDing as the opposite sex. I am a radical feminist because I want to see progress in opportunities for women, and I want to see men held accountable for their crimes against women. Those goals are getting tossed aside as society embraces a delusion that biology is immaterial. When everyone creates their own reality and their own rules to live by, we have no shared understanding of what it means to live in this world as a community. I have given birth twice. I know that being a woman and having new lives grow inside me is a special experience. Men will never get that ability. That's life. Nobody gets to do everything. Men who wish to be women are not an oppressed class. Not only do men not have fewer rights than women, men have oppressed women for millennia and still do. Oppression is recorded in most of the porn being produced these days and has been for at least the past 50 years. Women were barely making headway into formerly male occupations when transsexuals started advocating for their so-called rights. It is patriarchy with new rules that says men are women if they say so.
Great. That was awesome.
That was great.
Okay, so now we're gonna go back to Thistle in the studio for a quick minute.
All right, hey.
Okay, try it now. Try it now.
This is Thistle coming to you live from WLRN Studios in Madison. In lieu of going out into the cold to the Capitol today, where we expected trans activists to be disrespectful and disrupt us, we decided, again, it just went off, Emily.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay, no sound. They keep saying no sound. So can we take this mic out?
What mic is it over?
This one, because it's like this. Maybe I'll go to the other one and you figure this out. I'll go to the other. Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna switch to a solo.
Is this one muted though right now?
It shouldn't be.
Oh, well, don't we need to mute this one while that one is unmuted?
Well, are you gonna? You can talk on that one right now.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like, okay. Hi, everyone. Sorry about this. We're still figuring this out. But thank you for tuning in to WLRN's live stream today. I'm in Studio B, and it's packed with TERFs. We have a live studio audience. And also, earlier you might have seen that there is a bodyguard here. It is dangerous business to speak your mind as a woman today. So that's why we've come inside of this cozy studio and we're doing our first episode of TERF Tea Time. Many thanks to Margaret, who was our first speaker, and also to Emily, who is a WLRN member, a new WLRN member, who is working on our technology as I speak here. She's also my co-host in Studio B. So I've taken over Studio B for a moment. And basically, we are here today to say no to men dressing in women's clothing and pretending to be us. That is not a human right. It is, in fact, making a mockery of womanhood. I'll go so far as to say that I really find it distasteful these days that we are taking children into libraries and having them be read to by drag queens. Drag queens, if you don't know, which I think everybody watching this does know, are men who put on lots of makeup and make themselves into a caricature of a woman. And often it's very sexualized. It's connected to pornography, which is a form of institutional violence against women. And we're just here saying our opinions and saying, we don't want women to have to be subjected to this in a free and democratic society. We are full human beings. We want to be full participants in society, full citizens. And Emily, do you have a message for me about technology over there?
Yeah, I did fix the technology over here, but you're doing great over there. I would just stay over there. Keep it simple.
Okay.
If you're done, I can go next.
Okay, so Emily is going to speak next at our first episode of TERF Tea Time.
Yeah, when we were planning this event, maybe a week ago, we realized that it was also Trans Day of Remembrance today. I started doing a little research into, we've got more TERFs coming in. I started doing some, I immediately, on my phone, started looking up, Trans Day of Remembrance, and there's all these websites and lots of what looks like lots of information, but it actually took me a long time, probably 15 minutes of searching through 5 or 6 different websites to actually get a list with real names of who these actual trans people who have supposedly been murdered by transphobic violence or whatever were, which is fascinating because a lot of the websites had a lot of articles about how the news reporting of trans death was bad and it's dehumanizing and stuff. But then on all these websites, all of them are trans murder, but don't actually have the names of any of these people who have supposedly been murdered. And once you actually find the list of these people who have supposedly been murdered by trans hate or whatever, and you actually start looking into their stories, I couldn't find a single one that was an incident of true transphobia, a person is walking down the street and somebody views them as trans and decides to kill them. That is what I think people are invoking when they talk about trans hate, trans violence, leading to trans death. That's the image you conjure in your head, is somebody just being that's a trans person, I'm going to kill them. And that doesn't happen in America. That literally does not happen in the United States of America or the UK or any of these other Western developed countries. It definitely is still something that happens to more or less of a degree in some other countries, like in South America. But it literally does not happen in the United States. Trans people are incredibly safe here. And if you start looking into the very specific stories of the people who are listed as trans murder victims, you'll find, there is someone who is listed on, I think it's on the HRC is the website that actually had lists of names. And one of them was a woman who identified as a man, a trans guy who was dating a trans woman, and the trans woman murdered this his boyfriend, girlfriend, and also like his brother. So this trans woman went on a murder rampage and killed his brother and his girlfriend, and that is a crime that is reported as like a transphobic murder, that this trans man was murdered by transphobia. Literally in a couple of articles I found had quotes from someone from HRC saying like, this is the kind of transphobic hate we have to watch out for and stop. And it's like, literally a trans person murdering another trans person. So it's really facetious and ridiculous to list that as a person who was murdered by trans violence when it was a woman who was murdered by male violence in an incredibly classic, unfortunately classic way that women are murdered by their boyfriends, by their intimate partners. Most women unfortunately know that the men who are most dangerous to us are the men that are closest to us. It's not random men on the street. And same thing is true for trans people. Like most of the trans people who are on those lists who've been murdered are have been forced into prostitution work because they're in poverty. And so if you really care about keeping trans people from being murdered, you might want to help them get resources and job training so that they don't have to work in prostitution. It's incredibly dangerous and obviously like emotionally and mentally taxing environment to be in. So yeah, I just want to encourage any women to actually do your research. Let's if you start doing some Googling into Trans Day of Remembrance or a lot of these other claims that the trans movement makes and that people make, they're false. They're really not true. Trans people are really not in danger in the United States. They're incredibly protected, and generally speaking, if maybe in some smaller towns and more less liberal places, we might imagine there still is like harassment, but that harassment would be more closely aligned with like homophobia, because plenty of gay people or gay looking people all over the place still might get a little bit of harassment, but it's not transphobia.
Hey Emily, somebody is saying they're confused about what we're trying to do. We're not outside, we're just preaching to the choir. Normies are unaware and not tuned into
Oh, well, that's
this
bad.
live
I mean,
stream.
we're just having a wonderful time here inside, drinking tea, being cozy. We had a great potluck last night with all these great turban women and getting together, just talking and having this conversation. It's the internet is fortunately or unfortunately is our town square in a lot of ways. So yeah, we're here to be on the internet to have our voices heard so that nobody can shut us up, because nobody can shut us up. So yeah, if any other women want to go, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, next we got Bailey.
Hello. Today I want to talk about the question, what is a woman? Because a lot of people seem to be confused by that question lately. And to help you, instead of asking what is a woman, I want to ask who gets to decide. First, I want to picture a person with a neatly trimmed beard profiting off of a documentary by the name What is a Woman? And pontificating to a crowd of adoring college students at UW-Madison, safely secured away from a screeching mob. This person's views are based in reality, but still I wonder, why do we need him to tell us what a woman is? A few weeks later, a group of people with eyeliner and estrogen pills gather to seethe and cope over the pronouncements of the first person, seeking to reconstruct and redefine what it is to be a woman. And I wonder, why does womanhood need to be reconstructed and redefined, and what gives these people the authority to do so? Next, picture the moderators of the popular social media network Reddit, They require women's communities to be open to anyone who identifies as a woman. And yet they allow pornography subreddits that post exclusively images of female-born women. So why do the moderators of Reddit change their definition of a woman based on the context? And to whose benefit is this, and to whose detriment? In another corner of the internet, a clownish corporate shill performs on camera, trying to sell the concept of womanhood to impressionable young fans. The same corporate shill goes to the White House and is interviewed by the President of the United States. The president pastes on a smile to greet the corporate shill, and he promises to continue sacrificing children to the medical industrial complex. Children who have been misled by lies about what a woman is. The president pretends not to know what a woman is, but when it comes time to feed the war machine, he knows.
Bring it, Bailey.
That's our studio audience there.
Too many of those who we look to as leaders and authorities pretend not to know what a woman is. When it comes to women being raped in prison by male inmates, female athletes losing years of hard work and sacrifice to mediocre males, and the loss of female-only spaces and communities across all of society. But when it comes to the military draft, they know who isn't a woman. And when it comes to pornography, prostitution, surrogacy, egg donation, and forced birth, they know who is a woman. The redefinition of the word woman into an amorphous nothingness is a purely male endeavor. Why do we continue to accept this redefinition when we know that it harms women and girls and all of society? Women exist and we know who we are. We all know what a woman is because we all came from one. We do not need a man to tell us.
Hell yeah. Okay, now we're gonna head back to Thistle and Studio A for some more news.
Hey, I just wanted to give a shout out to Bailey. She's another, I'm muting your mic.
Just trying to figure out why.
I'm muting your mic.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Hey, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Bailey. She has been to some of the WLRN Speakers Corner events, and she is a woman that's been silenced. She's a woman who recited a poem up at the Capitol, and you couldn't hear her, and they were almost spitting on her, literally making fun of her, taunting her. And, you know, this was a free speech for women event. And so I just wanted to give a shout out. Bailey's voice was heard today on WLRN's airwaves. Please like, share, subscribe, and let's keep creating community-created media and meeting up in person and taking back the town square, whether that's virtually or on the ground. Today, we weren't in the mood to have TRAs coming up real close to us. They were extremely violent and outrageous and horrible in New York City recently, and 9 arrests were made there because they were encroaching upon the women who were just trying to speak in a violent way. And we're still going to be seeing aftermath from that. You know, it's not fun to go out and be a citizen and go on the street and express your opinion and just be shouted down. I'm working with Representative Mark Pocan. I'm going to have a meeting with him along with maybe some of the other Free Speech for Women organizers to talk about the law here in Wisconsin and the difference between noise pollution and harassment and free speech, because as the law stands, it seems like free speech is defined as anything, even nonverbal emergency sirens on a megaphone, And we need to look deeper into the laws about like when does it become noise pollution and harassment? At what decibel level is it acceptable to play an emergency siren next to a woman who's trying to exercise her First Amendment free speech right on the street, giving a speech? At what point does that become noise pollution and harassment and not another form of protected free speech? We need answers to these questions. We need to keep our women safe. April Morrow broke her hand, or her hand was broken. I'm going to say it. A man in Tacoma, Washington broke April Morrow's hand because she was at a Free Speech for Women event, the Let Women Speak Posey Parker USA tour stop in Tacoma, Washington. That is unacceptable. And so we need to change, we need to make sure the existing laws, if they do protect women's free speech, that they're being enforced, that police are informed of what's going on with these thugs, these violent men on the streets attacking us for expressing our opinions. And we need to enforce the laws if they are going to protect us, or we need to change the laws so that they will protect real free speech. And with that, I'm going to pass it on over again to our next lovely speaker. Emily, are you ready for me to pass it over to you, sis?
Yeah, do you want to do your song next?
No.
Someone else needs to monitor the comments too, then, that we didn't figure that out.
Well, you
There's
know,
15
this is a
comments
work
right
in
now.
progress. We're doing something new. We're creating something that hasn't been done before. So first times always have things a little clunky. That's okay. It's part of the process. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely talk more about, I don't know. I think like trans people have, there's this inflated view. Some women in the comments have been talking about this mass murder at a gay club that happened last night, I guess. So I don't know how many people have read about it or anything, but it was in Colorado Springs at a gay club, and like apparently like the first people who were reporting on it were like it was a gay club. Like I'm not familiar with Colorado Springs or their clubs or anything to know like what the actual client like demographics, like how many people went to this place, were like was it a gay man's club or who knows. I don't know, but apparently when it was first reported, it was reported as a gay club, and then immediately like CNN and all these other news outlets changed it to LGBTQ. When I saw it this morning when I got up, I saw it on NPR, and it was LGBTQ, which is just kind of like what I was saying earlier, like people are not randomly murdered for being trans. I think it's interesting that you might want to look at this situation and be like, oh, if you see it as LGBTQ, then it's like, oh, like randomly someone decided to go in there and murder trans people, but it was actually gay people that they were targeting. There haven't been any mass shootings at any events that were specifically trans. There have been mass shootings at other like gay clubs where the people are mostly gay people. So I think that is another, confabulation that trans people love to make, that crimes against gay people suddenly become crimes against trans people, when it's really gay people who are being targeted. I mean, I should have printed off more of the research I was doing about Trans Day of Remembrance, because it's pretty staggering, the actual reality of like who are these people who they're claiming. There's one person who was on the list who was a trans-identified woman who was killed in a mass shooting. Like I think this was like a year and a half or 2 years ago. So again, like that is another example of a person who was murdered, but not because they are trans. Like murdered, is a mass shooting. That's like a male violence that we unfortunately see like all the fucking time in the United States. But that is very different than. And I think if I'm remembering these details correctly, I think the woman that was killed in that mass shooting who identified as trans, it was like her brother was the shooter. I might be completely wrong about that. I would have to go back and look at it. But yeah, again, like the men who are most dangerous to us are the men who are closest to us. Unfortunately, it's not like random male violence most of the time. Are you ready? Cool. All right. Now, next we're going to have a song from Thistle.
You move this back.
Yeah.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This is my Turban love song, and it's based on riding my bike between two Michigan women's music festivals and doing it in a tribe of women in our homeland, Michigan. And here we go. My turban queen, when will you be seen with me out in the open breeze? My turban queen, there are stickers to paste and campfires to make. And with the wind on your face, you'll pick up speed, my turban queen. Come dance with me into the night, under starry skies. We'll ride our bikes along the shore. Michigami calls our names, and with honor I do the same. Oh, sacred Michigan. Turban queen, let's dance cheek to cheek out in the open breeze. You are free. Cool. As you can hear, we have a studio audience. We are a packed studio today here at WLRN. Thank you so much for tuning in. And is there another woman who'd like to make a statement or speak or hold up a sign? All right. Well, as you can tell, it is an act of bravery and courage to speak in today's world. And I'm going to just tune it back over to our, I guess I'm just going to stop it then. Stop the live
let's
stream.
sign
So
off.
thank you. We're signing off. Thanks so much.